What up, YouTube? It's your boy Banks. And we back in the building, you feel me? It's True Talks. Cause True Talks, alright? Let's get straight right into it. Bruh, my goodness, man. So Saturday night, it was a road game for the Raptors. They were facing the Pelicans for the second time. And you already know, man, just like this is not what elite looks like, man. It's actually just horrendous. It's atrocious. It's straight garbage. Fugazi, whatever term you want to use, it's all of that. Not one, it's all of that and some. My goodness, man. Like, bro, Pascal has just been struggling. And I'm going to talk about him because we're going to have a serious conversation. You know what I'm saying? The Raptors are obviously, to start out the season, they're now 1-4. They lost to the Pelicans for the second time in what, 5 games? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, and it's not that the Pelicans are scrubs. No, the Pelicans are nice. They added Steven Adams. You know what I'm saying? They've improved. They got a more year under their belt. Zion is now playing basically unrestricted minutes. You know what I'm saying? Brandon Ingram is there improving. Lonzo Ball, all of that. They got Bledsoe, right? So they're not no scrubs. They're far from it. But at the end of the day, if you're supposed to be at least a playoff team, you're supposed to win one of those games, or at least you can't be starting off 1-4. Like, there's no excuse for that. So when you look at it, we're gonna talk about that even more. But at the end of the day, like, again, this is not what elite looks like at all, bro. We're gonna go into that context because I give you that context, bro. Let's go straight right into it, man. That's cap. We're not going into none of that shit. I'm about to have a serious conversation with y'all, man. Because at the end of the day, like, Raptors fans have to understand something. I know a lot of y'all, oh my God, y'all turning against Pascal after one game. He doesn't look at the slander he's getting. Oh my God, just because he had a 1-2 struggle. Like, you gotta understand, it's not a 1-2 struggle. This is what people need to understand. So I'm a bring perspective like I always do. Give it that IQ because that's what I do. All right. So when you're now the number one option, this is the life that a number one option lives. You have guys like Russell Westbrook. They call guys like Russell Westbrook trash. They call guys like, you know what I'm saying, Paul George trash. They call these type of guys trash. They slander these guys in media. When Dame doesn't perform, they slander him. When Curry's not performing, they slander him. When LeBron doesn't perform, they slander him. These are elite, top tier guys that aren't excused of bad play by, the bulk of the masses and all that type of stuff. So now Pascal's supposed to be absolved of that for what? And those guys I'm even mentioning still average 25, 23, 24 plus points in their sleep as a number one option. In fact, when they're number one option on a bad team or on a lower tier team, they're averaging even way more. Their production goes even up. Their efficiency might not be the same. Like even Curry right now, before he had 62, obviously he had 62 yesterday, but before he had 62, he was averaging like 26 points, 42% from the field, which is atrocious for him because he's normally closer to 50. You know what I'm saying? Hella inefficient, but he's still averaging 26, 27. He's still like, that is considered bad for Steph Curry. They don't completely like look like a role player. That's the difference. That's why this slander that Pascal is getting is deserving, rightfully so. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, oh my God, what are you guys talking? No. The people who actually that aren't saying, yo, Pascal, what's wrong with you, are actually the problem. Because if I'm to tell you his numbers as a number one option, don't matter if you're struggling or not. If you're that guy, your struggle is still better than the rest. Like I mentioned. They're complaining about KD and Kyrie, and those guys are averaging 27, 20, 28, 27 points on high efficiency with the losing. Like, and people are still saying, oh my God, they're not it. Look at the clutch. Like, that's what they're now because they lost 2 games or whatever the case is. But go look at their numbers. Your team is losing. Like, this is what you understand. As a number 1 option or as that main guy, if your team is losing, you as that guy better be snapping. Like when you see Kawhi, when you see LeBron, whoever the case is, when their team is losing, they're still doing what they do. That's why you hear people say, yo, look at that guy around him. He's missing shots, or they complain about the others. But when you're losing and you're doing absolutely nothing, we don't need to look at nobody else. We don't need to. Because if you did something, would we still be losing? That's the kind of conversation and the kind of IQ and the kind of thought process that people look at things from when you're classified as the number 1 option. When you get all the praise or you get all the gratification when your team is snapping. You become the all-star. You become the MVP. You become the talked about focal point guy. It comes with the territory. You can't have the cake and eat it too. You can't be getting all the praise when everything's going good because you're the face. And now when things are going bad, you don't get any criticism. You get criticism even when you're snapping and things are going bad. But obviously the IQ people will know and say, yo, their team, they're having issues with rebounding, whatever. And I'll talk about that also with the Nets as well too. You know what I'm saying? But that will be the conversation. If Pascal's still doing similar to what he did last year, he averaged 22. Let's go look at his stats, man, because this is getting out of hand. He averaged 23 points, and he was averaging 23.9, 24. But when the bubble happened, he dropped. You know what I'm saying? He averaged 23 points, shot 45% from the field, and he shot 36% from 3, which is not bad. 45% is decent, right? 36% is decent, right? And then he shot 80%, 79% from the free throw line. 7 rebounds, 4 assists. Like, these are decent stats. These are solid. As a number 1 option, it's decent. It's not great. It's not terrible. It's decent as a number 1 option, right? This is what these kind of stats is what number 2 options. This is what Clay be getting. Not the rebounds, but like the points per game. It was Clay be averaging 21 as a 3rd option. Like, this is, you know what I'm saying? As a 2nd option, man's even Kyrie right now, 2nd option or 1A or 1B, like you be averaging still 25, 24, like you still be averaging, but he's still as a number 1 option. Okay. You know what I'm saying? We understand he's not a high tier number 1 option. So he did decent. But right now, for you to start the season, you're averaging 17 points, 16.5. You dropped off almost 10 points. 7 or whatever it is. That's a big drop off. You're shooting 39% from the field. 28% from 3-point line. And his free throw jumped to 88. That's what you're doing. On your next year, your 2nd time as a number 1 option. And this is what people need to understand. This is what I was trying to tell y'all the whole time, that this guy has not been a guy that, if you look at it from like IQ wise and eye test wise, skill wise, Pascal's not been a guy that actually has been improving. All those years, y'all got caught up in the illusion. He has not been improving. Those 3 straight years where he averaged 7, then went to 17, then went to 23. Those 3 straight years, oh my God, the improvement. He's only going to get better. Look at the jump. His situation improved. I've said this time and time again. His situation improved. I'm just going to repeat it again one more time for y'all who haven't watched previous videos, because sometimes I be doing that. I be thinking y'all have watched and I just be thinking y'all know what I'm talking about. But I'm going to talk for the first time listeners. Like, this is what I'm talking about. The situation for him has improved for 3 straight years. When he averaged 7 points per game, that one year, he was a backup player. He played 81 games, only started 5 games. He was coming off the bench, doing a rotational, off the bench type of role. So he averaged 7 points. He shot 50% from the field, 22% from 3, but he only shot 1.6 threes per game. So now when you see him the next year jump, and the next year that's when Nurse was now was a head coach, because he did well with with all the other things, G League and all that type of stuff. He did well behind the scenes, all that type of stuff. And Pascal was performing in the G League. Now when they saw that, and he got the head coaching gig when they moved Casey, and they got traded for Kawhi. That's when now Nurse said, you know what? I'm going to elevate Pascal. That's after his 7 points year. He elevated him to a starter and a number 2 option. And his points and his production. When you have higher production and your situation improves like that, you have a green light. There's no worry. You're not coming off the bench. You went from 20 minutes to 32 minutes. And way more production. Your stats, your improvement is naturally going to improve. It doesn't mean your actual skill has got better. People are going to look at it, oh, he can shoot a 3 better now and all that type of stuff, his ball handling. But no, it's comfortability. When you're coming off the bench and in a limited role, you're not going to try and impose your will like that, especially if it's your first time on the scene. You're going to play whatever role they give you. Casey's giving him a specific role. He's going to play that role. And he's going to watch his shots. He's going to, you watch your shots and your shot selection. Go to the Rose and go to Lowry. Okay, no, I'm not taking this one. Like, you're going to be more cautious with how you move. You don't have a green light because if you miss a 1-2, you're subbed out. Like, you're not having confidence in what your play. So now when you're given a green light, you're given 32 minutes, you're now a guaranteed starter, you're now a number 2 option, you're going to do more. It doesn't mean your skill will improve. It just means your displaying of your showcasing has improved. You showcased more. You went from what's it called? You went from 1.6 3-point attempts per game to almost 3 attempts per game, or 3-point attempts per game the next year. So his input improved. He went from 6 field goals per game to now 12 field goals per game. That's why he went to 55% shooting. Everything improved in terms of his production. You know what I'm saying? So you have to look at it from that aspect, and then that's when you're going to be like, okay, if you actually are watching the game, his takes were exactly the same. He averaged 17 points. Okay, he improved. That's to the people's eyes getting pump faked by the stats, but not seeing that his situation improved. That doesn't happen a lot of times for other players. Other players, just their situation improved one time, and that's it. Now he's going to do his 3rd straight improvement, which happened when now Kawhi left. Kawhi leaves the next year, and now he's elevated to a number 1 option. So he went from a rotational off-the-bench guy to a number 2 option, now to a number 1 option. So for 3 straight years, his situation and his output and his usage is improving 3 straight years. That doesn't happen to anybody. I don't even recall when that's ever happened. I've only recalled one time where like CJ McCollum, guys like that, went from off the bench or whatever the case is to now guys leave, Wes Matthews or whatever. Now you're a starter, number 2 option or 1B. Like you improve one tier. You don't improve 3 straight tiers in 3 straight years. That does not, I don't recall when that's ever happened. And that's the reason why now the next year he jumped from 17 points to now 23 points. Again, so he went from 11 field goals, and this is just production. You can see he went from 6 field goals to 12 to now 18. Went from 1.6 threes to 3 threes, and then now to 6 threes. This is just showing you the production increase. He went from 20 minutes to 32 minutes to 35 minutes. This is where I'm showing y'all his situation is changing for 3 straight years, which is automatically going to result in stats changing for 3 straight years. It's not, if you really have IQ and you really look at his game has never changed. Only thing that changed is his confidence. His game was always the same game. This is why you have to understand situations change everything. Don't be fooled. Understand. Look at the game, the skill. And you could actually see if someone improved. If anything, his fare actually improved. Because you'll see, now that he's the number 1 option, he picks and chooses when to display his skill. Or when to display his artistry. Because as the number 2 option, he didn't have to pick and choose because he never had the best defender on him at all times. So now that he's the number 1 option, you know what I'm saying, things change. And then now you're seeing, this is the first time in his career where he's had the same situation for 2 straight years. And that's him being the number 1 option. Look at his career. He had, when he averaged 7, rotational piece again. When he averaged 17 the next year, he was the second option to Kawhi. Then the next year, when he averaged 23, he was the number 1 option. And now for the first time, he's a number 1 option again. Nothing changed. So you could really see, is this guy going to improve? Is he actually who he's supposed to be? This is the first time where numbers aren't going to be manipulated. He's in the same situation for 2 straight years. Let's see the improvement the next year. and he drops OD. And y'all are trying to act like it's the bubble and no. What the truth is, this is what the truth is. The truth is that this man has always been the same guy. But his situation has improved, that it's been smoke and mirrors this whole time. I'm not saying that Pascal is trash or anything like that. I'm just showing you how difficult, when people roast other people and all these other things, they don't understand how difficult it is to be a number one option day in and day out. Seeing double teams, seeing the best defender, seeing game plan. Like, obviously in regular season, it's not even as serious as playoffs, but it's still serious in terms of the other positions, the number two options and all these other guys. The number one option is the hardest position to be in the NBA. Whether you're on a bad team, good team, or don't matter. There's levels to this. For you to be that caliber of player, people don't appreciate the fact that these guys, even on their bad games, are performing elite. I mean, they say Luka's having a bad game, he's only having 24, and he's still getting 27, or, he's still producing way higher than Pascal is doing role player numbers. Like, guys off the bench. Jordan Clarkson is averaging 15, and Jordan Clarkson ain't no scrub. I'm just showing you, there's guys off the bench averaging what he's averaging. And you're the number one option. And it's not like you're a big man number one option. You're Tatum, power forward, KD, number one type of option. Brandon Ingram, look what Brandon Ingram is doing. Did his production drop? No, because it's called skill set. When you have skill set like that and you're not limited, it don't matter what the best defenders do to you. You're going to actually even improve your game because you're that caliber of player and you're skilled that a guy might limit you one game, but it's not going to change for the whole season. Your stats are going to drop off like that. What happened is now people are in tune to Pascal. They know his weaknesses. So they're playing pressure defense on him in those type of ways. And now what Pascal has done, he's been trying to shoot way more to kind of take away from him having to go into pain and do all these ISOs. He's been shooting way more. And then even him trying to do his spins and trying to do his paint takes, he's been getting stripped. He's been even looking way worse than it is. So mentally, he's even being affected because he's seeing the best defense often. He can't escape. So when you can't escape the shit you used to do, it's now not working no more. You would think as a skilled player or those real number one options, if something's not working, they'll go to a different bag. They have multiple bags. They have multiple skill sets. You don't just focus on this. It's not working. Nah, man, I'm done. They find ways. Pascal doesn't have any other game. He doesn't. He doesn't have any other game. As much as people want to roast Giannis, Giannis is the number one option. He's not doing this shit, even though he's limited. That's what happens when you're unstoppable in what you do. At least you'll still have high production. And this is something that is just having a real conversation, because all the jokes aside, all that type of stuff, you have to understand that, like, this is not what elite looks like. This is one of the main reasons for the Raptors struggles. People don't understand, like, how valuable and how different a number one option real player actually is. They shit on them all the time and this and whatever. I only talk, let's say when I talk about Steph and his production or whatever the case is, in terms of the Steph we see at 30 points per game. That's different tiers. Now you're talking about number one option versus another number one option, a Dame versus Steph, or a KD versus LeBron. Like, that's a different conversation. But now when we're talking about just like regular or most improved type of guys, number two option guys, and you want to talk about them in another realm, like, that's where it's like, those guys, when we talk about those guys, are comparing them to each other. But when you want to talk about these number two Pascal type of guys in comparison to these Stephs and number one option guys, like, don't disrespect the tiers and the actual play of basketball and the game itself. He's not a number one option, but Raptors fans always overboost. And that's why I'm here to even at IQ, because that's what I do. Is I know it's tough to hear. And it's, oh, he's a hater and whatever. I still haven't received my flowers from a lot of y'all who, when I told y'all Pascal was this from time, y'all were roasting me. My flowers are still awaiting. In fact, water them. I'm waiting. You get what I'm saying? Like, but at the end of the day, it's not about that, because it's here to just people. There's a lot of people confused, especially Raptors fans. Yo, what's going on? And when you understand that Pascal is a big part of the losing and is a big issue to it, because his production has dropped off. And it's not that, like, people don't understand. Like, when this is the same type of conversation that I tell people about Steph, like even in those finals when they lost a 3-1 lead and stuff like that. When you're a player when you guys win, same thing with Giannis that you see in the second round. You know, sometimes even when you see with Harden in certain playoff moments or whatever the case is. When you're all-star or your superstar caliber player or your main guy for the whole regular season does certain type of production and you get wins based off of this blueprint. This guy does this, then everybody else fills in. Even if he struggles, he's still this, so then everybody else fills in. But when this guy now drops his level of play drastically, and everybody now else has to do something they've never had to do throughout the regular season, which is now hella step up and be relied on way more. It's not a recipe for success. It's a recipe for disaster because you're changing the blueprint. And people don't see these things. They always just blame, oh, that guy missed shots, But you're not looking at the guy who's been averaging 30 points per game, who was an MVP, is now averaging 22. That's 8-point drop-offs. You're supposed to rise your level of play in the playoffs, not decrease. So when you now decrease, I don't look at these other guys to blame them. Why? Only if you do what you do or you do higher, then now these guys are sussing. Now I point fingers to them. But I look at you first. You're the guy. If anything, you're supposed to take over the load and show that I'm the guy. That if you're that different, if you're that caliber. We don't blame others when you're sussing. And that's why I only blame Kawhi to a certain extent, because other than game 7, he was the guy. It was other guys. That's why you hear the Paul George blame and you hear the other stuff blame, because Kawhi was averaging 30. You know what I'm saying? Until that one game. That was my only issue with Kawhi, was that one game. Other people will try to roast him, take it further than what it deserved, but it was the one game. I just gave him, he for the first time, he needed that. He hasn't got that. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, like, these are guys that do, that they have production. They rise their level of play. KD, they rise, even Bron, everybody rise their level of play. So when Steph is averaging now, and he's averaging 30 as on a 73-win team for the unanimous MVP, and in the finals coming, he's averaging 20 points on 40% shooting, I'm supposed to say it was Harrison Barnes' fault? I'm supposed to say it was Clay's fault? I'm supposed to say it was Iggy's fault why they lost 3-1 lead? I'm supposed to blame those guys? Draymond? Livingston? What are you doing? That's the real IQ assessment and breakdown and analysis of what actually transpires between these guys and these caliber of players. So when Pascal is dropping his production recklessly like this, you have to look and be like, yo, and then now you even see, now it's even worse than even people think, because when he's not there, they won. Yes, it was the Knicks, but when he wasn't there, they won. Part of it is it's the Knicks, but the Knicks have beat good caliber teams. They beat the Bucks. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like they're playing atrocious. They're actually were better than the Raptors at that point. So that's still a decent win. That's how sad it is to say. Like, just take that in. The Knicks is supposed to be a decent win. Because they're still, like, you know what I mean? Like, bruh, they're still better than the Raptors at this point. And you win, no Pascal, because of the disciplinary action. Remember when I showed how he walked off because he was cheesed after he fouled out? And then now, and that's even to show you, that even shows you if that was LeBron or if that was Kawhi that did that, you think they're going to discipline him? They look at Pascal as like, yo, you're not that. Don't ever, like, who are you? That's literally what they're saying. You think you're enough of that caliber to walk off and be absolved? Sit a game. You know how do you understand how sunning that is? Like, I promise you, Kawhi, KD, Kyrie, Steph, LeBron, James Harden, if they did what Pascal did and they tried to ever say you're not sitting, you understand the blow up that would be? Those guys would be throwing balls behind the scenes. Bench me? You bench me? You have the bench me? Bruh. Pascal don't say nothing because he know, one, his play's been atrocious and he's been looked at now as not that guy. They won't say it for media. Remember, it's a family. But behind the scenes, they're flaming this nigga. Come on, like you gotta, if you play ball, you know. This man did what LeBron been doing. What these guys do. Some of these guys do. And the man they actually said, no, we're not doing the culture, we're not a step. No, they're basically telling the guy, who are you? You're sussing and you want after that to walk off? Those guys that even walk off, they killed and they're mad at the team, so they walked off. You're sussing and you're actually the reason we're losing and you have the audacity to walk off? Bruh. This sit a game discipline. When have you seen disciplinary action? He's sitting out DNP for that. That's crazy. So when you look at it from that perspective, that tells you everything. That tells you that, yo, okay, there's something going on here. So he's actually the reason why they're losing. Then he comes back, then they lose. Then that same game, he fouls out with about 7 minutes or whatever left. And they were blown out by like 10. And then they come back. The minute Pascal goes to the bench, the team plays better and comes back. They're moving the ball because they don't have to pass it to this guy who's now he gets it. Oh, he stops the flow and he wants to go do his spin and whatever. And you have to give him the ball for production. You have to give him the ball for number one option. He has to get his touches. The man's only taking 10 attempts. Like, it's just atrocity. Like, bruh, I'm telling you, man, like, this is not a recipe for, and you're supposed to now follow in this year, attract players in free agency. I tried to tell y'all before this happened. This offseason will determine what type of meal you're about to eat in the next offseason. What recipe are you going to have? And they chose the wrong recipe. They chose the wrong one. And they still could do something. We don't know. But I'm just telling you right now, it's a recipe for disaster. That's what I'm telling you right now. And now they're about to face the Celtics today. Look at Tatum eat. Even Jaylen Brown as a number 2 option. Elevated because now he went from number 3 option. Kemba's out. Oh, I'm here now. Eating. Brandon Ingram still eating. These guys, they haven't dropped off the next year. Like, that's something, bruh. I'm trying to tell you, the defense is focusing on this guy. Now he can't escape. He literally is in a trance. That's what's happening. Exposure. And he doesn't know how to keep his composure. This is literally reality. All of that 3 years improving, that was smoke and mirrors. The first time he's in the same situation and he drops off. What does that tell you? What does that actually tell you? Like, they're obviously the Raptors. And the worst part is you're supposed to increase your level of play because there's no Ibaka and there's no Gasol. So you even have more minutes. You're going to get minutes at the 5 now too, which is why his rebounding at the beginning of the season increased a little bit. You're going to get more things in that realm. And yet you actually dropped off. Like, y'all don't understand how bad this actually is. I know some of y'all are, Pascal and whatever. Some of y'all don't understand how bad this actually is. Yes, Malachi should get minutes. TD should get, that does not matter. If you have your number 1 option playing this bad, you're going to lose majority of your games. You know what I'm saying? Like, you literally, and that's the difference. This is why bad teams are bad teams. And even bad teams that are bad teams, like even like the Suns before they equipped and got, CP3 and all of that type of stuff. And they've been trying to improve in 8 and whatever. In those early Booker years, even DeMarcus Cousins' early Kings years, they didn't have talent around them. And yet they still had, it was always, oh my God, he's not an all-star because anyone could get numbers on a bad team. Then you have a guy like Pascal, who's not even on an OD bad team, not getting numbers. Anyone can get numbers on a bad team. That's cap. Yes, it's better and it's more easier, but not anyone could do it. That's just to tell you. That's just to show you what the reality actually is. So, bro, You understand, like, those guys have been in bad situations and still shoot efficient and with double teams and whatever the case is. There's even a case that could be made that it's even harder to get buckets and shoot efficient when you're by yourself on a bad team because you're the focal point. It's easier to actually just kill when Kawhi is sitting there and they're worried about Kawhi and you can just get your buckets. You're not going to have better output in terms of production, but it's easier to shoot efficient. It's easier to shoot. That's why people, oh my God, Pascal's efficient. He's 50%. They don't worry about him like that. They're worried about Kawhi. Now, the minute he's the number one option, 45%. That's a big drop off from 55 to 45. KD with Steph, with Westbrook, without Westbrook, by himself in his MVP. His MVP season was without Westbrook and he shot efficient as the sole guy. So, like, those guys, it's different tiers. Like, don't disrespect the game by just over boosting players. It's disrespectful to the game itself as a whole. And that's just like Pascal's struggles. For me, I told you, it's not even, this video says it's a struggle, but for me, it's not a struggle. It's a reality. Because in this situation, this is who you have to get used to. In a different situation where he's a number 2 option, he'll perform. He'll be eating. He'll catch man sleeping, do his paint takes, and like, they're not paying attention to him like that. So he's a great number 2 option guy, as we've seen with Kawhi. So, like, that's a different situation. That context is irrelevant to this context. Who you saw then, erase it out your minds. This is a whole new situation, number 1 option. A whole different ball game. The best defenses are on you. They put the best defender on you. They don't ever want to give you a big break. You have to earn every bucket. If you're about to get an easy one, they'll foul you. Like, they don't, it's different when you're the number 1. You're game planned for. Mans are in the bus. Mans are doing film study on you. They're doing it on you. They know when you go left, what weakness, the type of takes you're going to take. When he spins, go double him here, go reach here. Like, you're the number 1 option. Everything is about you. And that's why certain takes that used to work don't work. Because now that we're paying attention to you. We're aware now. We know now. It's ingratiated in our brain. We know. And that's a whole different realm, a whole different situation than what you're used to seeing him do as the number 2 guy. It's a whole different ball game. So again, like, bruh, the Raptors, again, they might, like, that's why they're looking better without Pascal, because they don't have to go to this guy. Like, when you have a number 1 option guy, like, it's disrespectful not to go to him. So you'll see them at times force feed him, give him the ball. Go ahead, guy. Go ahead. And they believe in him. Go. We need you. You know what I'm saying? But when you don't have that guy there, that's why you see them do more ball movement. Like, you have to do that when you don't have a guy who's like your number 1 option, a bucket getter. When you don't have that guy, you have to do more ball movement, penetrate, driving kick. You're doing more, ball movement. That's how you have to play. You can't just give it to a guy who can just get a bucket. So you're always going to play different without your guy. But it's not supposed to be better. It's supposed to be like for maybe a game or something. But like, this is consistent. This is 2 situations now. You see them play better without Pascal. And then when he's on the bench too, you see them play better without him. So you got to understand, like, he needs to snap out of it. But it's going to be hard to snap out of it when you realize that, you yourself have realized that you lack skill. And you're not dominant. You're not like a Giannis who's dominant in the lack of skill things that he already does. Like, Giannis can get 30 out his sleep with doing his one thing. Running into the paint, spin, Euro, because his length is basically unguardable. That's why you force him out of the unguardable thing, and that's when the struggle happens that you see in playoffs. Because we don't let him do his unguardable thing. Pascal is not in an unguardable realm. His spin and all that stuff is not something that's unguardable. It works for him at times, and it's his go-to, but it's not something that's unguardable because they don't double him. Even like you see with Boston, they didn't double him. They had Marcus Smart on him. He tried to do the same spin, cookie. Like, his things that he does that work for him aren't unguardable. That's the difference of a number 1 option. Your unguardable takes, or your takes, some of them or a lot of them are unguardable. And you're missing because of you. Like KD, like even Brown running into the paint, like stuff like that. There's certain things, like These guys have unguardable talents. Pascal does not have one of them. So he's been overboosted from the jump. And that's where you have to get yourself, especially Raptors fans do this a lot. They overboost things and they do this a lot. But you have to understand, like, at this point, this season is going to be a struggle season. This season, I already knew that from when they didn't replace Gasol and Ibaka in a proper fashion. And obviously they did it because they have the whole free agency to rely on and to lean back on. But I already know that it's going to come down to they're not going to get nobody and they're going to sign DeRozan. Because they have to keep the fan base happy. They can't just go into rebuild. You can't win a ring and then in 2 years go into rebuild. It doesn't work like that. The only way they'll go into, if Masai is to leave, then you'll see rebuild. It's not going to help Masai's resume for it to have a team that went into rebuild. It's not going to help. So that's not something he's looking at. He's always going to make a move. He's going to do something to keep the team at least in mediocre, in mediocrity, in that type of realm. So this has signs and of, DeRozan opted in because he knows, okay, I'm going to match with next year. Raptors next year has all the money. I'm next year going to be a free agent. We're going to match. And they're going to try and, these not their plan A, B, or C. They're going to try to get maybe Kawhi, whoever, whatever the case is. But if they all go off the books and they all don't get signed, which unlikely they're going to get anybody, then they're going to have to be relied to, as the backup plan, to sign DeRozan. And it's going to be beautiful for DeRozan himself because he's back in the East, can get an all-star berth, can reacclimate himself again. And that's just, I already know. And then that's going to at least keep the Raptors in the same mediocre, maybe second round or same type of maybe can contend, maybe don't situation. Where at least fan base is still there watching and it's the same energy. And I can see it. So again, like this season, like I'm telling y'all, man, like they're going to have, obviously, like people are saying start Boucher and do this and that. Like Boucher's issue is his body size. So starting him against an Embiid and start like on an actual NBA starting centers, he lacks girth. So it's hard to start him until he's proven like that he can pad those guys in those situations. When you're coming off the bench, those guys aren't sometimes on the floor. Sometimes they are, and he does well. It's not like he's atrocious. That's not what I'm saying. But to be relied on as a starter, it's different. It's a different realm. So I understand why Baines is the starting center in terms of just body type. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, Boucher, I would have Boucher play more minutes and end games, etc. and stuff like that. Similar to what Ibaka was doing with Gasol. When Gasol, obviously his girth and whatever positioning, defense starts, and then Ibaka takes over. Boucher's in the Ibaka role right now, which that's what I thought he was going to be. If you sign the Christian Wood and you have Boucher upgrade to Ibaka role, that's what anyways, I'm not going to go into that. But like what I'm saying, at the end of the day, it just comes down to Boucher starting, all these Malachi playing, all these Matt Thomas playing more and TD more minutes and, doing this and doing that. It does not change nothing with Pascal on the floor. If your number one option underperforms and is shooting atrocious and doing all these fugazi things, you're always going to be in a struggle and it's hard to win. That's just NBA basketball. No matter if you're a bad team, good team or not. That's just NBA basketball. In fact, we look more like a bad team because even like you say, like even the Knicks and if other teams that are bad teams, they at least still have a number one option and just the pieces around them are bad. Like Levine and stuff like that. But even then, some of these bad teams don't have no number one option like the Cavs last year didn't and stuff like that. They don't have that. So it looks like, oh my God, what is going on? We're literally on that realm. It's like we don't have a number one option. That's what we're looking like right now. So if anything, we have the blueprint of a bad team. This is just, deep level thinking IQ at the end of the day. But, the Raptors play the Celtics today. We'll see. Obviously, I'm still going to do breakdowns, but me doing a breakdown on this, bruh, I just have to have a real talk with y'all. Sometimes it's just don't go to the breakdown. Let's just have a conversation. You know what I'm saying? Let's have a conversation because this shit's getting out of hand. It's getting out of hand. 1-4 to start? Bruh. This is not what LA looks like at all. At all. Anyways, it's True Talks. Because True Talks. Share, like, and subscribe. We out here. There's no doubt here. There's no drought here. You feel me? Bruh. Man, it's not a good look, man. It's not a good look. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section, man, because I know I've even been seeing the views on these Raptors have been dropping. I know a lot of y'all are fed up and tired of this shit. I already know. I can see it. But man, this has been called from time. You already know, man. And I'm out, man.